Steve, hi, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, Colleen?
Really good.
Ice is excellent. We haven't had, since we put it in, what is it now? Probably 8-9 years since we've had it, and we just haven't had any complaints, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been excellent. The first year or two, we kind of massaging it, trying to figure out the best way to do things and the ice temperature to keep it at. And yeah, now we've really got it down to the point where, it's just really good ice. It always is. And we can adjust it, different temperatures for the games. And we know how long it takes for the ice to get to a certain temperature and how long, it'll hold for if we run it at that temperature. And, it's been really good for us, real good for us.
I did send to Josh an email that talked a little bit about, how you had calcium like leaking out of your Olympia tank back, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago, something like that. And that's because the REALice treated water was attacking that built up calc inside the tank.
Right.
Or maybe it was 5 years ago. It was quite a while back. And after it was all cleaned out, you actually didn't need to, you were using cold water sometimes and hot water sometimes, like depending on your user groups. And once you actually got that calcium problem resolved, you're only using cold water now, are you not?
Right. Even before that, we were just a little hesitant to just use cold water. And now we're just using cold water on everything. And it's been great ice. We haven't seen any difference whether we use warm water for games or just straight cold water for games. And we use cold water for everything else. And we haven't seen any difference. And it's been fine. There hasn't been any problems whatsoever. Josh, one of the things we did put in was just a 3-stage filtration that actually Dan Craig told us to put in. And that just because we were concerned about, he said that would catch some more of the calcium. And we did put that in, but, that was still before, I believe that was still before we had the REALice. I'm not positive, but still, it catches some of it, but the calcium situation is not as bad, and is almost non-existent.
Wow.
Everything seems, well, it's definitely the tank. We haven't opened up our tank in a couple of years now, but it's just, I think Dave is the operations manager. I think he looked in it last year and said it was pretty much crystal clear. So, but before it went quite a while without opening it. So there was a 5-gallon jug full of calcium that got pulled out of the tank once we finally opened it up, because it was a Olympia that you really couldn't. We had to cut into it to open it up, cut into the aluminum. So, but once we got all that out, nothing has reappeared.
What's your opinion about operator hesitancy and how to overcome that? Maybe give Josh a little heads up.
Well, it's just trial and error with your location. It just takes a while to figure out what the best ice is going to be at, and we found, I think we pretty much ran at 24 most of last year. We can be somewhat of a colder rink, but then we'll drop it down to maybe 21 for the games, like a couple hours before the game, we'll drop it down to 21. And that seems to be a pretty good temperature for the game. Or we'll run 23 to 22, or I'm sorry, 24 to 22 or 23 to 21, depending on how warm it is outside, because our building does heat up, when it's warm out, and it cools down when it's cold out. So, those are the fluctuations that we get, but it's usually pretty much a 2-degree difference from, when we do want to have a game in our location. But as far as 24, I don't know, we might have even gone to 25 at times last year with our ice temperature. And before, we were running consistently around 21, 20 the whole time before we got the REALice. So
are you measuring on infrared, or are you going by brine? How do you run your
infrared?
Infrared.
Yeah.
Yeah, the largest hesitancy is from staff, obviously from operators changing. It's kind of a big change to go from hot water to cold water. And then it's the water quality. And I wouldn't say it's an argument, but the fact that if you're implementing this new technology, is the ice quality improving because the operators are taking a closer look at the ice and more closely kind of monitoring, or is it actually from the technology itself and what it's doing?
From the technology. There's,
okay.
you know, from the REALice, there's no question about it. We had the worst ice. You know, in my opinion, as hard as we worked on it, we had one of the worst ice I thought one of the poorest ice surfaces. It was slow. It was, you know, the ice was real draggy. You know, no matter what you did to it, then you got it so cold. You got it cold and it got chippy. And now we have one of the, in my opinion, one of the best ice surfaces out there. And, you know, if we could ever go to municipal water, it would even get probably better. But at this time, we don't have that option because it's too expensive compared to the well water for us. So, but yeah, that's the difference from, like, you know, coaches coming on to us, hey, is there anything we can do with the ice? And I say, we're trying everything we can, to not a complaint in probably 6 to 8 years. So
it's awesome to hear.
And great ice, and it's fast. It's back and forth, up and down the ice, you know, and the puck isn't bouncing. You know, as long as they ice the pucks before the games like they're supposed to, the puck doesn't bounce at all. You know, it's a real good quality ice and good quality game because of it.
And do you have like figure skaters on your ice as well?
We do. Okay. And they love the ice also, because you even though it's, you know, the REALice is good hard ice, it's still the figure skaters still like it because they can still grip, they can still toe pick and get a good, you know, get good grip on the ice. And, you know, and depending on what's going on, we may adjust the ice temperature too for them, you know, depending on how much time we have before our next event. And, you know, they really like it. And it's also keeping our rink warmer, because when we were running at 21, you know, the rink was always much colder than we were running at 24. You can really feel a difference at 25. The 3-stage filter that we put in, I could give you a picture of it. It's real basic little, you know, it's just 3 little filters, and with, you know, different levels of, you know, the filter, whatever it's called. And I'll tell you what, I don't know how much it helps, but I believe it helps. And just to get something between the well and the Olympia. But the REALice, you know, I don't think you're going to need reverse osmosis. Maybe if you want to have absolutely perfect crystal clear ice, maybe. But to me, you know, we haven't thought about it at all since we put it in, that we would need something like that. We would love to have municipal water, but reverse osmosis is really not necessary. We could have got our hands on one probably at a pretty cheap price, and we didn't jump on it. Like I said, we got rid of 3 hot water heaters. We got rid of a boiler that we didn't need anymore. You know, our compressors ran about 50% of what they were running at before. So wow. Right there, as long as you get even a little improvement, which you're going to get a lot of, I don't know how your ice is now, but even if you get a little improvement, it's still worth it. We didn't do it as much last year just because of the whole COVID thing. And,
for sure.
But, you know, when we can, you know, we like to dry shave first thing in the morning before we lay any ice. We like to put a dry shave down, and then, you know, and even when we don't, because again, it's to get everybody to be on the same page to do it. You know, then there's things that can happen first thing in the morning. Like sometimes they get on the ice. If they got on the ice, there's probably no reason to dry shave it. If somebody gets on the ice first thing, 6 o'clock in the morning, you know, and they you know, usually one of the college teams. So you go right into cut. Well, we dry shave it anyways before we cut it in after a college practice, because they tear up the ice pretty good. But for the most part, if it's a normal day, you know, we'll try to dry shave the ice before, you know, before the start of the day, to get some, because it's nice to start the day off with perfect ice, you know, and, you know, but the other thing that I wanted to add is, the dehumid. Now on your rink, do you have dehumidification and all that?
We do. Yes.
All right. So you know, that's the other part of the puzzle. It's the ice temperature, and then it's the dehumid, as far as, you know, so you don't have too much snow, so you don't have too brittle ice. You know, you get that takes a little getting used to too, as far as, because now instead of it being at 21, you may be at 24 or 25. So now you may have to adjust that dehumidification also to make the, you know, because your ice has changed. But what we've found is we've actually had to bump our dehumid up a little bit, which is another savings, meaning, you know, it's gone from like 55 to consistently keeping it around 65 to 70. And then there are times when, if the, you know, we may drop it down if we feel like it's getting too sticky. But for the most part, we've had to actually bump the dehumid up a little bit, which is another, like I said, another cost savings.
Well, we know that when there's too much humidity in an arena, it makes it really tough for the players to actually breathe. You know, you don't want your air to be too wet. But what Steve has explained to me, well, we know that the ice acts like a giant sugar cube, and it's sort of sucking all of the humidity that is in that arena into it. And Steve tells me that it actually, with a higher humidity level, it's helping him have better ice.
Well, I think just because before, you know, we had to have the ice temperature down, so you had to, you know, I don't know what it was, what was causing it, but you know, now with the higher ice temperature, it almost it's kind of seems, you would think that you'd lower the amount of humidity in your building with the higher ice temperature, but it's the opposite with REALice. We just got better ice when we moved the humid up, and it's not enough to where, you know, it's really, anyone's really going to notice it, but you notice it on the ice. You know, it's not gonna, it really doesn't fluctuate the temperature too much in the building. But it does, you do notice it on, you know, I notice it because I'm watching to see how much snow, how much, you know, what type of, you know, cuts the players are making on the ice, how deep the grooves are. And that's how I kind of look at adjusting the dehumid. So.
Were you carrying that much? Were you paying that much attention to your ice before you put in the REALice?
Absolutely. Yeah. Trying to figure out how to make better ice. Let me add one more thing is, in the last 5 years, we keep our ice at about an inch, and we haven't gone through it once.